In the dimly lit corridors of power, single misstep unraveled layers of secrecy, plunging Washington into chaos. It began with an encrypted signal chat, a fortress of confidentiality where top Trump administration officials planned military strikes against Yemen's Houthi rebels. But when National Security Advisor Mike Waltz mistakenly added journalist Jeffrey Goldberg to the group, the fortress crumbled. Goldberg stayed long enough to witness sensitive discussions about attack timelines, weapons systems, and even disdain for European allies. The leak revealed not just classified strategies, but also internal discord, and Congress erupted in bipartisan fury, with allies criticized and blame shifted. The Democrats demand resignations, accountability, igniting debates over national security and encryption vulnerabilities, while Republicans scramble to contain the fallout. One question lingers: is this leak intentional, or was it a human error that accidentally revealed American intentions? Welcome to In Depth.
Donald Trump is his name, and he's there to stay.
As unlikely, impossible is now reality.
America powerful. We will win, win, win. And we will make America great again. Let's do our own terrorists. We will very quickly make America great again.
A security breach within the Trump administration has raised alarm after senior officials discussed sensitive U.S. military plans, including airstrikes on Yemen, in a signal chat group that inadvertently included journalist Jeffrey Goldberg. U.S. Today stated that the group, composed of key figures such as Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, discussed operational details, including targets and sequencing, leading to concerns over mishandling classified information. The breach has prompted investigations by Congress, with calls for accountability, particularly aimed at Hegseth. Trump downplayed the defending his team and claimed no classified information was shared. However, the incident has sparked bipartisan criticism, with both Republicans and the Democrats questioning the security practices and possible risks to national security. According to The Guardian, the recent leak from a signal chat involving officials from the Trump administration has underscored serious concerns regarding institutional dishonesty and accountability in relation to sensitive military operations, raising critical questions about the classification of the information shared. Furthermore, the leak has brought to light potential violations of the Espionage Act and federal record-keeping laws. Despite bipartisan calls for an investigation, there is a growing concern that officials may evade legal consequences, a situation exacerbated by the administration's casual approach to secure communications. In response, a lawsuit has been initiated demanding the preservation of the chat messages, challenging the legality of their deletion.
The halls of Congress echoed with tension as the fallout from the single incident, dubbed Singlegate, deepened partisan divides and raised profound questions about national security. March 2025 will be remembered as the month when encrypted messages meant to safeguard secrets became a tool of exposure, shaking the foundations of American governance. It began with a simple mistake. National Security Advisor Michael Waltz inadvertently added Jeffrey Goldberg, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, to a signal group chat that included Vice President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and other senior Trump administration officials. The group was discussing imminent military operations against Houthi rebels in Yemen. The messages revealed sensitive details, strike targets, weapon configurations, and even the identity of a covert CIA operative. Goldberg's subsequent expose sent shockwaves through Washington. Partisan reactions were swift. Democrats called for severe repercussions, with figures like Nancy Pelosi labeling it horrifying incompetence, and Representative Chris Delosio demanding immediate investigations. Republicans, while largely downplaying the incident, face accusations of hypocrisy after years of criticizing Clinton's email practices and Trump's document handling. President Trump distanced himself from the scandal, dismissing it as irrelevant. Beyond political blame games, Signalgate exposed vulnerabilities in America's digital communication practices. As Congress prepares hearing on the breach, trust in government institutions hangs precariously. This crisis transcends politics. It's a wake-up call for an era where technology intersects with governance. The Signal leak has left America grappling with its fragility, and its leaders scrambling to restore credibility at home and abroad.
A shocking leak of U.S. war plans on Signal has ignited a national security crisis, deepening partisan divisions. Was this leak intentional or a human error? Does it reflect Trump's continuous relationship with the media? Well, for more analysis, we're joined by Mr. P.L. De Silva, Professor of Political Science. Good morning and welcome to Qnews, sir. Now, we want to know from you, how does this incident reflect on the Trump administration's commitment to safeguarding classified information and national security?
This is a serious problem. It's a massive security breach, and it contravenes federal record-keeping laws. And one of my close friends and associates was director of the National Security Operations Center at the NSA, Rear Admiral Norman Robert Hayes. And he says that this is really the bottom. I mean, this is not something that is acceptable in the national security environment. And heads really do have to roll, because there has to be accountability. You can't simply wave your hands and say, oh, it's not classified, it's not important. You can't simply do things like that when it deals with operational matters, weapons platforms, identities of covert CIA operatives, etc., etc. So it's a massive security breach, and I don't think that it can or should be swept under the carpet.
Could Trump's denial of the leak scandal affect his administration's credibility on national security issues, in your own opinion?
This administration's reliability, credibility has been called into question way before the Signalgate episode that's going on now, especially because the European allies and the Canadians are saying, we don't trust the Trump administration, and therefore we cannot share intelligence with the Americans.
Well, could allied nations demand assurances? You just mentioned Canada, for example, or changes in U.S. intelligence sharing practices following this incident?
I think that there'll be a certain reticence of intelligence officials sharing information with their American counterparts, and that goes without saying. And even the British were appalled with this whole Signalgate business.
And how do Democrats leverage this incident against Trump's administration?
Yes, so this is the first time that the Democrats have drawn blood. And it's an own goal, in a sense, where the Trump administration has, through incompetence, really, not anything else, sheer incompetence, have brought about a situation where they have allowed the Democrats to draw blood. And I think the Democrats will keep on pushing this because it certainly does contravene, federal record keeping laws. I mean, these laws are there in place to make sure that the intelligence hierarchy stays inviolate, and therefore heads do have to roll. And I don't think that Mr. Trump can hold the fort and stop his top team from being held accountable. And the irony is that there is a senior DHS official who is facing censure for something very similar that happened in January, and but she's not in the inner circle, and they're trying to make an example of her, while Pete Hegseth and Mike Waltz and Tulsi Gabbard and others are being being covered for by Trump and his staff. So I mean, it's really ridiculous. It's like a feed America.
And now we're joined by Mrs. Irina Zuckerman, political researcher from New York. Good morning, Mrs. Zuckerman. I want to ask you, how do Trump administration officials justify using Signal for discussing military operations?
The main response
I cannot hear you properly, Mrs. Zuckerman. Can you hear me? I would go back to Professor Silva until we can reach Mrs. Zuckerman. Now, Professor Silva, how does this leak compare to previous incidents of mishandling classified information, such as Hillary Clinton's email server controversy, if you remember?
Right. So the thing is this: this deals with operational security, weapons platforms, the identity of a covert CIA operative, and real-time updates 2 hours before an attack on a perceived terrorist target in Yemen. And this really calls into question, Hillary Clinton and Biden and Trump himself collected a lot of classified information, and but there was nothing operational really about it, not that we know of. But here, this is truly appalling.
Because it's operational?
It is operational. It's putting U.S. operatives in danger, and also U.S. assets. Because had that information fallen into the wrong hands, you could have had the F-18s shot down. You could have put pilots at risk. You could have had the Tomahawk shot down. You could have had the drone shot down. So because it gave real time and said, okay, exactly at this time, at this time, at this time, the attacks are going to happen.
So, in your own opinion, how can the Trump administration officials justify using Signal for discussing military operations?
Oh, it's totally absurd. I mean, that's an open source commercial app. I mean, I use it. Probably you use it. Many people use it, and it's certainly not classified. It's not a secure channel, and I think it's totally ludicrous that the topmost U.S. so-called intelligence officials are using Signal as a group chat. And don't forget that Steve Witt was in Russia at the time, and he was probably receiving this information. And we all know that countries, signals intelligence is monitored and intercepted.
Exactly. So was the leak intentional, in your own opinion? Was the inclusion of Jeffrey Goldberg in the Signal group chat deliberate or a human error, just a mistake?
No, it was a huge mistake, a huge error. I don't think any of these people, on that chat wanted to sabotage the Trump circus. They certainly did not want to do that. So it's just, as I said before, it's an own goal. Using soccer terminology, where you're scoring against your own side.
Yes, I get your point. So, how might this breach affect trust among U.S. allies, especially given the criticisms of European partners revealed in that chat?
Yes, I mean, I got a call from an old friend who was in the parachute regiment and who consults for GCHQ, which is the British equivalent of the NSA. And he was appalled, and he was also saying it's totally hilarious. I mean, he said these guys are clowns.
So, could this incident lead to resignations or dismissals among the Trump administration officials?
That would be the best way to sort this issue out.
But would
You
it
know,
happen? Do you expect this to happen? Or is
well,
Trump too stubborn to carry out such a step?
Trump is mercurial, but if it gets too hot for him, he will, heads will roll for sure. Because at the end of the day, Trump cares about Trump.
Yes. And how does this incident amplify existing divisions between the Democrats and the Republicans on national security issues?
I mean, it's just another example of the deep divisions in the United States. And there are, I mean, just not only on intelligence, but on so many other matters, federal workers getting fired. I mean, it's horrendous. I mean, there's a total bloodletting, and even higher education. Professors like us are considered the enemy by the vice president. I mean, it's
In what
ridiculous.
way? In what way, Professor Silva?
Because they think that higher education is not something that is supportive of people like Trump and the others, and they don't hold higher education in high esteem, and they are destroying the education department. They are firing people. Half of the education department has been destroyed, and it has been one of the crown jewels of the United States, where U.S. higher education and universities have had a high place in the world, and now ICE and immigration issues are making it impossible for students, foreign students, to come, because we told our students that in spring break, if you go overseas, might not be allowed back in. So who would want to come and study in America? So the winners of this are going to be in Europe. The foreign students will start going to Europe, to Canada, to other countries, and not come to America, which would mean that another industry of the United States is going to be made defunct willfully by Trump and his people.
And could this breach lead to long-term damage to U.S. national security?
Oh,
Or it will
100%.
just pass by?
100%. Rear Admiral Norman Robert Hayes said that once this whole thing is ended and Trump's term is over, that it will take decades to rebuild and reconstruct, because it is not easy to build trust once you have lost it. And it's easy to lose trust. So
Exactly.
to rebuild, and the Americans will have to eat humble pie. They're talking in such arrogant terms about the Europeans and their other allies, the Canadians. They will have to. There has to be a reckoning, but it won't be during Trump's term, because this too shall end. Nobody lives forever. It doesn't last on and on. But the damage that has been done to the United States,
Will always be remembered.
it's huge.
Yes. So, does the use of signal violate federal record-keeping laws, such as the Presidential Records Act?
I would certainly think so. I'm not a legal scholar, but on the outset, if you look at the federal record keeping, yeah, people have to be made accountable. So Mike Waltz has taken responsibility, sort of. So his job is probably on the line. Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, who is who's saying nothing classified was discussed. I mean, it's ridiculous, and that's the reason why Jeffrey Goldberg put the screenshots of these chats that was going on Signal, while he was sitting in a Safeway car park, mind you.
Yes. Could officials, Professor Silva, involved face legal repercussions under laws like the Espionage Act for mishandling classified information?
Yes, definitely. I mean, that's the example that I gave you. A senior a female official from DHS did a similar thing, where she included a journalist, and an ICE operation was exposed.
And was that
And
intentional or by mistake as well?
by mistake, and they are going to throw the book at her. But Trump is trying to cover for these really incompetent people that he has in the highest positions in his government. They're really incompetent.
And what role did internal dissent within the administration play in the leaks revelation?
I don't think any at all. It was just something that Jeffrey Goldberg
Destined.
did.
It was just by coincidence.
Yes, I mean that's what's astounding the British, the Canadians, and the others.
And how does this situation affect public trust in the transparency and the accountability of the U.S. government when it comes to military strategies, or in general, its credibility in general?
So that, I mean, it's going to hamper. It's like a trickle down effect, right? Because the diehard Trumpers are diehard. Come what may, they will support Trump. But the more this happens on this national security front, but also on the economy, I think cracks are going to show. And we can see in the midterms, there's a high likelihood that the Republicans are going to lose the Senate and the House.
Well,
And that would be the litmus test in 2 years' time.
okay. Anything you would like to add, Professor? To this
Yes,
subject?
I think that a little bit of humility would go a long way, domestically with regard to the American public, and also trying to have trying to reach across the aisles. That's here in America, and humility also with regard to the allies in the UK, in the EU, and especially Canada, the closest neighbor. The Canadians have said that we are no longer on the same footing with
Yes.
America.
Yes. Well, that was Professor P.L. De Silva, Professor of Political Science. Thank you very much for your valuable insights. And this brings us to the end of today's episode of In Depth. I'm Hala Al-Hamalawi. Thank you very much for joining us, and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.